Hey guys, so in this video I'm going over lesson 5. Lesson 5 we kind of rushed through, making sure that we at least touched on it before we were no longer in school for a little while. So in this lesson we went over identifying triangles and their congruency methods. So we're talking about side, 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 angle, 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 side. And we skipped over HL for hypotenuse leg. So we're going to ignore the HL. Hold on. There it goes. So we're not going to worry about that HL. We are, however, going to worry about that not possible. So there is no cuss words in my class. So if we have a side-side angle, it is not possible. Make sure you have this down somewhere so you remember that that is not possible. So before we look at one that has multiple ways to show congruency, let's look at an easier one. If we were given the triangle, two triangles, and we are told this side and this side was congruent, this angle was congruent, and these two angles were also congruent, then we would know these angles or these triangles are congruent due to side, angle, side. Because that is what is consistent or consecutive while going around the triangle of what is congruent in between the two triangles. Another example would be two triangles, and we're told this line and this line are congruent, this line and this line is congruent, this line and this line is congruent. So however many number tick marks they are corresponds to which side they are congruent to. So in this case, side, 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 it's congruent to side, side, side. So that is how we identify that they're congruent. Another way is if we have these two triangles and we're told this angle is congruent, this side and this side is congruent, and this angle is congruent. So those two double angles mean that those two angles are congruent to each other, not the other angles. So in this case, we would identify these triangles as congruent by angle, side, angle. So hopefully using this, we can see what the methods are. One last thing before we go into the problems. If we were given two triangles that had this angle and this angle congruent, this angle and this angle congruent, and then lastly a side congruent, we would go angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. So that is how we would show their congruency. So for looking at number 1, well, do you agree if I separated triangle 1 and triangle 2 that their lines that made up this line in the original figure would have to be the same length? Hopefully, yes. So this is triangle 1 and this is triangle 2. These two sides would have to be congruent to each other. So these two sides are congruent to each other. This side and this side was given that they were congruent to each other. and this side was congruent to each other because it's given. So we have side, side, side that are congruent. And that is how we can show or prove that they are congruent. Number two, there are multiple ways. You can go ahead and split up the first and second triangle. So we're given this, and we're given this. And we also can assume these two sides are congruent because they are the same line on the original figure. So we have let me change the color so you can see it a little bit easier. So we have angle, side, angle. We also have angle, angle, side. Angle, side. We also have side, angle, side. So those are the three ways that you can prove these two triangles are congruent. For number 3, so this one is a little bit more tricky. I want you to just look at the fact that you have two lines that are parallel, and you're told that they're parallel because of these two arrows, and you have a line going through them. Well, from our lesson 1 in this unit, if I wanted to look at this angle and this angle, would they be congruent, supplementary? What would they be? Hopefully we remember alternate interior angles, and they would be congruent angles. So that means if we go back to our figure, this angle and this angle are congruent. So now we can separate out our triangles. So for our first triangle, we have an angle, a side. We know that this side is going to be congruent because it's the same line. For our second triangle, we have this line, this angle, and we know these sides are congruent. So for number 3, we have side, angle, side. There is not another way to prove for number 3 that these angles or these triangles are congruent. Number 4, there are multiple ways. First way I want to show is that we have side, angle, side. So that's one. Second one, I want to separate our two triangles. Knowing that these two sides have to be congruent because they are the same line in their original figure. This side and this side is congruent. This side and this side is congruent. So hopefully you can see it. Another way to show that these are congruent triangles is side, side, side. Number 5. Number 5, we are given this weird looking angle. Hopefully we know what it is. Take a second if you don't. Try to guess what it is. It is a right angle. So if this is a right angle, meaning 90 degrees, what does this other angle have to be? Also 90 degrees. So if this is 90 degrees, that means this is 90 degrees. So if we look at the different triangles separate, we have an angle that is the same, we have a side that is the same, and these two lines are going to be the same as well because they are the same line in the original figure. So in this case, we have side, side, angle, side, side, angle. Well, if you spell it a little bit different, we don't cuss in my class. So if we have this case, it is not possible. So it is not possible for number 5 to prove that they are congruent triangles. So pause the video and see if you can figure out number 6. You should have gotten side, angle, side, and angle, side, angle. So if you have any questions for lesson 5, please do not hesitate to email me or message me through Remind.